Okay, so um, I haven't been on in a few days, so I'm happy to be back on. I wanted to talk a little bit today about the power of asking for help. I wrote an article for Psychology Today. I also posted the article on Substack. It came out today. So if you are interested in learning more about that, go ahead and check out Substack, The Right Side of 40, or Psychology Today, The Right Side of 40. So, in case you don't know who I am, my name is Deborah Heiser. I'm an applied developmental psychologist. I talk about midlife, aging, mentorship, and everything I talk about is applicable to anyone of any age, but my area of expertise is midlife and aging. So, today I want to talk about the way that we can harness the power of asking for help. And most of us don't really put much emphasis on the power of asking for help and how much that can help us, how much that can make our lives so much better just by being able to ask for help. And the interesting thing is that we're usually pretty reluctant to ask for help. And I did a LinkedIn poll a while back, and I asked people if they felt comfortable about asking for help, and only about 21% um, you know talked about that being something that they would do. So why would that be? Why are we all so afraid of asking for help? If we really look at how surprising or not surprising that number might be to you, um, think about any of the hesitations that you might have about asking for help. What makes things that are so simple, like saying, "Can you help me?" so hard? I know for myself and from what others have reported is that asking for help makes a person feel like someone's going to think they're not very smart. Like somebody's going to think that they don't know something well, that they're going to expose a vulnerability that makes them feel like they don't have the expertise or the ability or the authority to talk on something. And so it can make a person really say to themselves, I'm not going to ask for help. Now, I've talked a lot about this with regard to mentoring because a lot of people will say, I'm not going to ask for help. I don't want a boss or someone above me to know I don't know something. And then they're not going to give me a raise, or they're not going to, um, they won't end up promoting me, something like that. So I've seen that a lot with people saying they are not going to ask for help when it comes to mentorship because they don't want to expose a vulnerability. But we also do that in our everyday life when we're saying to somebody, "Hey, I don't know that I want to let anybody know I don't know something." That's when we really are not allowing ourselves to harness the power of asking for help. Um, so if you look back at your journey, childhood roots, any of your adult perceptions, anything like that, we all have developed strategies in how we go about not asking for help. And a lot of that can keep us being stagnant, maybe not getting to the next level, or maybe taking much longer than it would have. People will say, I don't want people to think that I didn't do it on my own, so I don't want to ask for help. Well, even if you got help, it's still you doing it. So it's okay to ask for help. But let's break this down a little bit. If we take a look at why so many of us hesitate to ask, can you help me? It's really been shown that most of us especially in the US, are really especially ingrained at a very early age to be very independent. Hey, thank you for liking the live. I appreciate you, Afan. So when we have a real culture of looking at our life as being something that should really be independent, asking for help. Thank you. I appreciate you, Afan. That makes it so that we are limiting ourselves and how we're going to make it further in what we want to do. We may not even know what we want to do. but we're afraid oftentimes to say, hey, can you give me advice or guidance? So this is a real power that we should be harnessing, is the power of simply asking for help. I can tell you that having um, run the mentor project for 8 years, where we were bringing elite mentors to help guide mentees around the world. w- I could tell you that even if a person had a hesitation about asking for help, once they saw that no one was, I'm from the US. Where are you from? That once I was able to see that a person broke that barrier of feeling like they broke through that vulnerability barrier, they didn't hesitate to ask. Then they started asking endless questions. Ah, LA, awesome. You have good weather there. It's pretty cold here in New York. I'm on the other side of the coast. So what happens is when we look at um, the power of exposing a vulnerability, most people aren't looking at it as a vulnerability that you have. They're looking at it as a person with a question, and we're built to want to help people when they have a question. Think of any time a person has asked you for help. You usually, your go-to is that you want to be able to help that person. You're not thinking, oh, that person just exposed a vulnerability. You're looking at it from a completely different perspective. And so when we can flip the switch and look at it from the point of view of the person who's offering to help, it really helps out. Hey, good to see you here. I'm glad to see you on here. So, if you look at anything in your childhood and maybe looking at independence and how you could sort of break these and have some insight into that, that's really going to help to make a much bigger leap towards asking for help. One of the biggest ways that I've seen people and myself also making that leap is by helping others. When you help someone else, you get to see what it feels like from the helper's perspective. So if you go and help somebody, if someone says, I'll give you an example. When I was in graduate school, I was going for my PhD, and one of the last aspects of getting your PhD is that you have to do in applied developmental psychology, which is what I went for, you have to do an externship. And when you go for your externship, you're really looking for good recommendations from the people that you're working for, because that's going to get you to the next level. And so my fellow student was on her externship, I was on mine, and I got a call on a cell phone. And this was back in like the olden days when cell phones were really expensive to operate. And if you got a call, you knew that it was really important. So I took this call, and she was like loud whispering into her phone, hey, can you help me do Kappa statistics? I know you know how to do them, and I don't know how to do them. Can you help me out? And I said, of course I can. And I was happy to help her. I wanted to help her. She was my friend. I knew how to do this. She knew a million things that I didn't know how to do, but I was so excited that I was actually able to help her with this one thing. So I sat on the phone with her and I walked her through how to do it. I couldn't do it for her. I had to help her. I had to teach her how to do it at that moment. And she did it. And then she ended up doing really well on her project that needed to be done at the end of the day. And this gave me insight into seeing just how good it feels to help somebody. I felt when she made her presentation and had her project done and did really well on it, I felt like, hey, wow, that's great. I got to feel like I was part of that. I didn't do it for her. It wasn't any of mine to take credit for, but I felt part of that. And that made me realize that if I am asking somebody for help, they're probably feeling that same way. And that's really when we harness that and we're able to see that we're actually allowing another person to feel good because they get to help us, that becomes asking for help like a superpower. Most of us just don't know how to do it without feeling awkward. So there's a whole lot of different ways that we can do this that feels, really normal for us, that just feels like part of having a conversation with somebody. And one of the first things that we can do is frame the ask. So If you frame your need as helping you to improve your performance or to do something productive, this is going to help you to ask for help. So you're not presenting yourself as being needy or incompetent. You are presenting yourself as needing to solve a problem or to improve yourself or your situation. So when my friend asked for that help, I didn't say, oh my gosh, she's incompetent. I was like, oh my gosh, she has a problem to solve in 6 hours. How can I help her? And that made me get to feel like I was part. Hello, good to see you. Made me feel like I was part of her situation and I was part of this problem solving journey that she was on. And then when she solved it, I got to feel like, yay, everybody wins. So if we make this really important distinction, this is what helps us to be able to ask someone for help. You want to see yourself as being proactive when you're asking, that you are providing anybody who's going to be helping you with something specific to help you with. So if you have something very specific, you can frame that in a way that is going to help you to ask for that help that will feel natural. I'll give you another example of how this looked from the perspective of um, a person who did something world changing. Bill Cheswick is one of the fathers of the firewall. That's how we're all able to be communicating online without having any worries of any kind of security issues. Well, was tasked with doing this. He was at work and somebody said, hey, Bill, I need you to do this. You need to create a network firewall. And he was like, okay, he didn't know how to do that, but he set out to start to do it. And he, put himself out there. He got as far as he could get and then realized he couldn't get any further. So he went and wheelied himself in his office chair down the hall to his friend, Steve Bellevin. And he said, Steve, can you help me solve this problem that I have? Now, Steve was already doing his own work. And it wasn't like he was going to benefit by helping Bill, but he liked Bill. Bill was his friend, and Bill had a specific ask. Can you show me where I might be missing something in this task that I have to do so I can solve this problem? And he said, sure, I'll help you out. And how often has that happened wherever you are, at school, at work, wherever? And you ask somebody for help and the person is somebody that you like, and they say, yes, sure, I'll help you. Well, that happened. But in this case, that was what led to the creation of the network firewall. They wrote the first book on internet security and firewalls, and the world changed. So it was the way that he asked that really made the difference. He asked for the help by framing it as, can you help me with this one specific problem? So people like to help people who ask for help. If somebody asks you for help on something specific, most people say, yes, sure, I'd like to help you. We're eager to do this. This is why people volunteer, they mentor, they get engaged in philanthropy. This is because we're built to want to give back. The old adage, 'tis better to give than to receive, is actually true. So giving to others is especially worthwhile when there's meaning and productivity that's attached to us. I mean, this is the holiday season right now. Everybody's really in a giving mood. And so we understand how that feels when a person opens up a gift that we give them and they have a big smile on their face. That's the same feeling that we get when somebody is being helped by us. It's like the feeling that we get when we give a gift that somebody really appreciates. So if we look at this and we know that somebody is going to feel good if we ask them for help and they get to help us, then that is really going to help us to ask for help more often. Helping others. When you help others, you get the perspective on how it feels to give to others. And that is really the most amazing perspective. Most people think that it's not going to be a perspective changer that you know how good it feels. But when a person actually does help someone out, they feel amazing. So when you do this, if you go help somebody out, take note of how much enjoyment you get from helping a person solve a problem, to do something they've been wanting to do, whatever they're asking for help in. And allow yourself to see the other side so you can see that you're not a burden, you're not incompetent, you're not needy. You will likely be much better at asking if you've had the chance to give. And most likely you're giving all the time and you're just not registering it. So try to register it, because the next time you do give, think about it. We're all giving all the time. We just are really bad at registering how good we are at this. So if you can in your mind put it together when somebody asks you for help and you do help them, um, take note of that, because then you're going to be able to really think much more about what the other side looks like. And I want to give you an example of how the power of asking for help can change things. During the height of the COVID pandemic, everybody was looking to be helpful in certain ways, and but it was a tricky time. There was so much happening. And Cristiano Galbiati, who is a Princeton physicist who happened to be in Sardinia in Italy at the time, said, "Oh my goodness, I want to make change here. I want to help make some innovations that will help the individuals here in Italy." His family was in Italy, and it was a time of real distress. So what he did was he reached out to one person that he knew and he said, "I want you to help me to we want to create some devices that will be helpful for the pandemic and help people in hospitals." And that person said, "Yes, I'll help you." Then that person asked for help. It ended up that within just a matter of a couple of weeks, they had 100, more than like 180 people helping on this project. And it's because each person, it became a snowball of another person asking for help. And then they ended up making something that was super helpful globally for people, that was just out of scraps and things that were around, the neighborhood, that they could get without having to rely on a manufacturer. So helping and asking for help can be a snowball effect that happens rapidly, that happens in a matter of no time. It's as much as a person can go viral in a video that they create, it can just happen in a snap. And that's the same way that it happens with asking for help. And so there's real power in that. You can make impact in just a matter of a day, a week, a month, and those things can be world changing. So if we take a look back at, what makes this so hard for us, let's go back to our early roots, like help seeking in childhood. Think back to when you were in elementary school. And kids often avoid asking for help when they think that their ability is being judged. Is somebody going to judge me? I know that so many kids would say, hey, I'm not going to ask a person to help me tie my shoe if you're really young, because they don't want somebody to know they can't do it. And that happens as early as elementary school, with kids thinking they're going to be judged, because they're just learning. If you're in elementary school, you're just learning skills and you want to be seen as competent all the way back to the beginning of school. So they do ask for help, though, when they think it will improve their performance. So if you think that your performance is going to improve, maybe it's a sport, maybe it's something to do with, math or reading or writing or whatever. If they think that it'll help their performance improve, they'll ask for help. But if it's for something that is concrete, like asking for help with dressing or tying shoes, things like that, they're not as likely to ask for help. And it's because judgment is something that none of us likes. Nobody likes to be judged. So little kids are already getting into the rhythm of not asking for help if they believe that they are going to be judged. So if you are feeling like I don't want to ask for help because I'm afraid of being judged, you are right in there with everybody else who's having that same feeling that already started way back in early childhood of not wanting to ask for help because feeling like you're going to be judged. So if you can think about how you might be able to ask for something that isn't going to make you feel like you're being judged, that's going to be helpful. And that's just a matter of phrasing something. Um, so if you are thinking, hey, I want to get better at doing something, that's going to help to phrase it for you. But most people will say, I don't want to raise my hand in class because I don't want to look dumb. I don't want to be asking a stupid question. So if you I was like that. I was a kid who never ever wanted to raise my hand. I wanted to sit at the back of the room. I didn't want anybody to ever think, "Oh my gosh, if I raise my hand or I speak out, somebody's going to think I'm not smart." And if you are somebody who thought that that is one of the biggest things that can hold you back from asking for help. So it's a matter of then saying, okay, how can I do this without feeling like I'm being judged in some way? So um, if at work, as in adulthood, people fear asking for help because they think it's going to jeopardize their credibility. In personal life, people will think it's a signal of weakness or failure. These are the things that go right back to early childhood and how, kids think about asking for help and being judged. So, you are not coming from a place that doesn't have millions of people right next to you feeling that same way. Um, so if we think of these things as ways that we can ask for help, this is something that's really going to be helpful to us. So um, this isn't going to erase any of the childhood dynamics that we've had. But when we don't think about them, it amplifies those fears. So if we start to in adulthood think about asking for help, it can amplify those feelings that we had when we were younger kids and make us feel like, uh-oh, I must not be capable if I need help. Or I don't want to bother anybody. I don't want to be a burden. Or I'm strong. I don't want people to think I'm weak. I'm gonna go solve my own problem. So these are the things, it's competence, burden, and independence. These are the traps that we put ourselves in. When in reality, people are waiting to help and they want to help. It's not something that people are saying, "Hey, I don't want a part of this." When people ask for help, people are excited to help. They're really not judging. It's not what we really are thinking that it's going to be like. So, um, help seeking is actually a sign of self awareness, not incompetence. How many times have you seen a person trying to do the same thing over and over again? And you're thinking to yourself, wow, if only they asked for help, they'd be able to get this. You're more likely to think that of incompetence if a person is not self aware and asking for help. So, asking for help is something that's actually seen as being self aware, oftentimes. So, um, there's a whole way that we're wired to want to give and provide support. And people will often ask a person if they need help. So we need to be able to, if we're really feeling uncomfortable about asking for it, showing that we could use some help. And that's another way to do it because we're hardwired to provide support and we get enjoyment out of giving support. So these are the kinds of things that imagine if you're able to ask someone for help and they give you help. This helps both people to feel a stronger connection. It helps to build trust and it makes a ripple effect. It's going to get more and more people that will ask for help. If you're asking for help for a big project or something big, you're likely to get more and more people to help because you've gotten one to help you. So these are the kinds of things that are all involved in asking for help. And there is, again, power in asking for help. So here's a way that you can frame and ask. If you say to yourself, I can't do this, or you say to somebody else, I can't do this, it feels like a helpless sort of thing. But if you say to somebody, I want to learn how to do this better, that is going to get somebody to want to help you because it's seen as collaborative, it's not dependence. So if you can move and ask from being dependent to being an ask that is instead seen as collaborative, that is very helpful. So if you link mentoring, volunteering, and the satisfaction of being needed as well, because we all want to be needed. And if you're able to um, shift from, saying, hey, I want to make something feel really dependent related to allowing a person to feel the joy of giving, that's another thing. So, um, a person gets like a helper's high. It's like a reward feeling that they get from helping others. So if you're able to tap into that with others, that's another thing. So another way that people normalize asking for help is they have a give and take of support. And so you can really help others, and then that will make you feel more comfortable to ask from somebody, that person. So these are the kinds of things that we can really do that makes it very helpful for us. It creates empathy. It reduces shame around asking. So if you've given help to somebody and it makes you feel more comfortable to ask them for help, that's great. You can do that. Um, the whole mentality that we have and a struggle with all of this is that, especially in the US, we have a whole way of thinking that is pull yourself up by your bootstraps. This mentality really breeds self-reliance and isolation, and it makes us feel like we can't ask for help. So um, this is not weakness. We really need to see that asking for help is not weakness, that you're asking for collaborative help from someone. Hi, good to see you here. That we're asking for somebody to be on a journey with us, that we're asking somebody to be a part of solution making. Um, so this is part of what it is. And this can be very helpful in asking for help. So for 8 years, I was the CEO of the Mentor Project, and I founded the Mentor Project 8 years ago. And part of what I saw was how people had a sort of a journey with asking for help. We had so many mentors that were waiting to give mentorship and help people, but the mentees, the people in the beginning, had such a hard time asking for help. And I remember talking to some of my students. I teach at a university, and they would say, no, no, I've got this. And I'd say, yeah, you may have this, but you might have it better with some mentorship or some help. Are you willing to have somebody help guide you in a way so you can get to where you want to go even faster? And it was hard to get people to see that they were not going to be seen as someone without a skill. And as soon as they asked, it was something that was beautiful, because you could see a person then feeling like, okay, I can be myself around this person. I can show my vulnerability, and these people who are mentors are going to be able to help me without me feeling incompetent. So, what this does is it connects us with people. It helps with us to continue to get healthy help seeking. It makes us then help others more. It builds bridges between generations. It allows us to use the expertise of others meaningfully. And I've seen this quite a few times in both directions, with people of different ages helping others. There are so many older adults who utilize younger people to help with tech and other things, or understanding the younger generation culture. The same with older generations in the opposite direction. All of this strengthens communities and gives a shared purpose. So when we are able to engage in that and think of asking for help is really just a part of one side of the coin. Asking for help is one side and giving is the other. Then this is very helpful to us when we're going out and we're looking to make change. So if we really try to think about where we started as children in terms of how we asked for help and how we ask for help as adults, this is something that we can also use to help ourselves to start to ask more often for help. And it really is going to make you get to the next level. So I hope that this has been helpful for anybody out there. This is an article that I put out in Psychology Today. It's also in my Substack, Harnessing the Power of Asking for Help. You can find the work that I do in Psychology Today. I'm an applied developmental psychologist. I wrote the book, The Mentorship Edge, which is out in all forms. And it really does also answer that question in the book about how to ask for help, because when people are asking for mentorship, that's really what they're doing. So if you'd like to check me out in all those places, that's where I am. But I hope that I was able to help. Hopefully I'll get back on tomorrow. I know tomorrow's a holiday, so we'll see. But have a great day, everybody.